I still remember his whisper, so faint I almost missed it. "Mom, I haven't eaten all day." My 6-year-old son, Tyler, stood in our doorway, his Spider-Man backpack dragging on the floor behind him. His eyes were red-rimmed, his little shoulders slumped with exhaustion. My ex-husband was supposed to have him for the weekend, their first weekend together in our new custody arrangement. I knelt down, my heart pounding as I pulled him close. "What do you mean, baby? Where's your dad?" Tyler's lip quivered. "He left me with his girlfriend, then she left too." What followed was a nightmare that would expose the truth about the man I once loved and the family who had shamed me for years. I never expected to discover what I did, or that my son's hungry whisper would ultimately save us both. I met James Davis during my sophomore year at the University of Michigan. He was everything I wasn't: confident, from a wealthy Chicago family with connections throughout the Midwest, captain of the rowing team. I was a scholarship student from a small town in Indiana, working 2 jobs between classes. His family never let me forget it either. The Davises were old money, the kind of family with a summer home on Lake Michigan and framed photos with senators in their living room. His mother, Eleanor, was particularly skilled at making me feel like an outsider. "Oh, you've never been to Aspen? Well, I suppose that's charming," she'd say, with that practiced smile that never reached her eyes. His father, Richard, a prominent cardiologist, would quiz me about my plans with an expression that suggested no answer would be sufficient. During our engagement dinner at the Chicago Yacht Club, Eleanor cornered me in the ladies' room. "James needs someone who understands our world, dear. Are you sure you're up for that?" She adjusted her pearl necklace in the mirror. "The Davises have expectations. We don't just improvise through life." Despite all this, I married James in a lavish ceremony that Eleanor orchestrated down to the napkin folds. I tried desperately to belong, even changing how I spoke, dropping my slight Midwestern accent. I remember practicing proper pronunciation in our bathroom mirror while James was at work. When Tyler was born, things got worse. Eleanor constantly criticized my parenting. "In our family, children don't cry in public," she'd say, taking Tyler from me at family gatherings. "Let me show you how it's done." My son began to look at his grandmother with a reverence I couldn't compete with. I still remember Tyler's 4th birthday. I'd saved for months to throw him a dinosaur-themed party at our local park. Everything was perfect until the Davises arrived with a professional circus performer, giant bouncy castle, and gifts that made my carefully selected dinosaur books look pathetic. We couldn't let our only grandchild have a quaint little party, Eleanor announced to the other parents. The Davises believe in making memories. But the real humiliation came when James started his affair with Brittany, his 24-year-old executive assistant. I discovered it after finding hotel receipts in his jacket, the same weekend he'd told me he was at a medical conference in Boston. When I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. "You've never fit in with my world, Melissa," he said, packing a bag. "Brittany understands the lifestyle I need." The divorce was brutal. The Davis family lawyer was ruthless, painting me as an unstable, unfit mother. Richard Davis testified that he'd observed concerning parental behaviors. They tried to take Tyler from me completely. Only my sister Kate's testimony and my meticulous documentation of James's absences saved our case. In the end, I kept primary custody, but James got weekend visitations and reduced child support. The judge was a former colleague of Richard's. The final insult was the grand gesture James promised Tyler at the courthouse. "Daddy's building a special room just for you at his new house, champ, with everything you could ever want." That room, and what it would eventually reveal, became the secret that would change everything. 7 months after the divorce was finalized, Eleanor called me. "We're hosting Tyler's 7th birthday at our lake house next weekend. James insists." It wasn't a request. Everyone will be there, the whole family. I wanted to refuse, but Tyler had been talking about seeing his cousins for weeks. His voice had been so excited when James mentioned the party during their last phone call. "Can I go, Mom? Please? Dad says there's going to be jet skis." That Saturday, I drove the 3 hours to the Davis Lake House, my stomach in knots. I'd bought Tyler a telescope. He'd been obsessed with space since watching a documentary about astronauts. It was practical but special, something we could use together on our apartment balcony. I'd wrapped it carefully in paper he'd helped me decorate with handprints. The Davis estate was imposing as ever. 6 bedrooms overlooking Lake Michigan, with a private dock and boathouse. Luxury cars lined the circular driveway. I parked my 10-year-old Honda at the very end, trying to hide its rusting bumper. "Melissa, you made it!" James's sister Caroline air-kissed my cheeks. "We weren't sure you'd come. Such a drive from that apartment, right?" She was wearing designer sunglasses that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Inside, the house buzzed with Davis relatives. Uncles discussing stock portfolios, cousins comparing private schools, Eleanor directing caterers with military precision. Tyler immediately ran off to find his cousins, leaving me alone with my carefully wrapped gift. "Oh, you brought something?" Eleanor took the package, her expression suggesting I'd handed her a dead fish. "How thoughtful. We'll add it to the table." She gestured vaguely toward a mountain of professionally wrapped presents before disappearing into the crowd. I found a quiet corner and watched James working the room. He looked tanned, relaxed. Divorce suited him. Brittany hovered nearby, her hand possessively on his arm, diamond bracelet catching the light. She was practically glowing, and I suddenly realized why. The slight curve of her stomach beneath her expensive dress. "They're announcing the engagement today." Carolyn appeared beside me, champagne flute in hand. "And the baby, of course. Didn't James tell you?" Her eyes gleamed with malicious pleasure. "The nursery is already being designed, right next to Tyler's new room." My hands trembled. James hadn't mentioned any of this. Tyler didn't know he was about to get a half-sibling, that his father was building a new family while barely maintaining contact with him. Dinner was excruciating. I was seated at the far end of the table, away from Tyler, who sat between James and Brittany like some perfect family portrait. Eleanor stood to make a toast about new beginnings and the true Davis air finally arriving, her eyes darting to me. After dinner, it was time for cake and presents. Tyler opened gift after extravagant gift. A kid-sized ATV from Richard and Eleanor, designer clothes, a laptop for schoolwork that cost more than 3 of my paychecks. My telescope was opened last, almost as an afterthought. "Telescope?" James laughed. "Buddy, that's nice, but wait until you see what Dad got you." He led Tyler outside to the boathouse, the entire party following. There, gleaming in the afternoon sun, was a child-sized speedboat with Tyler emblazoned on the side. "It's just like mine, son," James announced proudly. "We'll be lake captains together on your weekends here." Tyler was wide-eyed with excitement, but then looked back at me, suddenly uncertain. He knew we could never afford anything like this. He knew this boat would stay here, at the lake house he visited only occasionally. "And now," James raised his voice, champagne in hand, "I have another announcement." He pulled Brittany close. "Tyler's going to be a big brother." And he dropped to one knee, producing a ring box. "Brittany's going to be my wife." Applause erupted. Eleanor was practically levitating with joy. Tyler looked confused, then hurt, then excited again, as James promised. "And that special room I've been building for you is finally ready, champ. Wait until you see it next weekend." That's when Tyler said it, his voice cutting through the celebration. "But Dad, you said that last time, and the time before. I still haven't seen my room." The party went silent. James's face darkened. Tyler, not now, he hissed. But you promised, Tyler persisted. For 6 whole months you promised. The contractor had delays, James snapped. It'll be ready next time. I saw the familiar look of disappointment wash over my son's face, the same look he had when James canceled visits or forgot to call. Something inside me began to burn. That's when Eleanor stepped in, hand firmly on Tyler's shoulder. This is why he needs more time with us, James. He's becoming quite confrontational. She looked directly at me. Wonder where he gets that. The burning inside me erupted into an inferno. 6 months of promises. 6 months of Tyler packing his favorite toys to leave at his special room that somehow never materialized. 6 months of him coming home quieter each time. And now his hungry whisper from yesterday. Mom, I haven't eaten all day. Actually, I said, my voice surprisingly steady as I stood, Tyler has every right to ask about his room, especially after being left alone this weekend. The crowd went silent. Eleanor's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. What are you talking about? James demanded, his face flushing. Tyler showed up at our apartment yesterday, alone. He said you left him with Brittany, who then left him alone in your condo to go shopping. I stepped closer. He was by himself for hours, James. No food, no supervision. He's 6 years old. Brittany's eyes widened. I only stepped out for like an hour. I told him to watch TV. It was way longer than an hour, Tyler said softly. It got dark. I got scared. James glared at Tyler. Buddy, we've talked about exaggerating. He walked 6 blocks to the bus stop, I continued, my voice rising. He took public transportation across the city, alone, at 6 years old, because neither of you came back. Richard Davis stepped forward. Now, Melissa, children often embellish. He had bus transfers in his pocket, Richard, time-stamped, 4 hours alone. Eleanor waved dismissively. This is exactly the kind of drama. Child endangerment isn't drama, I interrupted. It's a crime, and it makes me wonder what else isn't true. I turned to James. Like this mysterious room you've been promising him. How dare you question? James started. Show us, I demanded. Show us all this room right now. The party guests shifted uncomfortably. Caroline's husband suddenly became very interested in his shoes. This is ridiculous, James sputtered. My condo isn't ready for visitors. You've been living there for 6 months, I countered. Plenty of time to create this amazing space you've been promising our son. Tyler looked up at his father. Can we go see it now, Dad? Please? James's face contorted. There's no room, okay? Not yet. I've been busy with work, with the baby coming. With Aspen and Cabo and the Maldives, I added, scrolling through his public Instagram feed. 12 trips in 6 months, but no time to create a space for your son? Eleanor stepped between us. That's quite enough. You're embarrassing yourself. No, I've been embarrassed enough, I replied, putting my arm around Tyler. My son deserves better than empty promises and neglect. James grabbed my arm. You've ruined this party like you ruin everything. This is why I left. You left because you're a coward, I said, pulling away. And now I have evidence of your neglect. Photos of Tyler's bus transfers, his statement about being left alone. Let's see how the family court judge feels about modifying our custody arrangement now. Eleanor's face went pale. You wouldn't dare challenge this family. Watch me, I replied. I've been documenting everything. The canceled visits, the missed child support payments, and now child endangerment. I knelt down to Tyler's level. Honey, do you want to stay here or come home with me? His little face crumpled with relief. I want to go home, Mom. I picked up my son and turned to the stunned party guests. Thank you all for showing exactly who you are. Tyler and I won't be back. As we walked out, Richard Davis called after us. You'll regret this, Melissa. No one takes on our family and wins.
Tyler buried his face in my shoulder as I carried him to the car. Behind us, I could hear James and Brittany arguing, Eleanor's shrill voice demanding someone fix this immediately, and the uncomfortable murmurs of guests witnessing the Davis family facade crumble. I strapped Tyler into his booster seat and placed his telescope beside him. "We're going to be okay," I promised, my hand still shaking as I started the car.
"Are you mad at me, Mom?" Tyler asked in a small voice. "No, baby, I'm proud of you, so proud." I squeezed his hand. "You were brave enough to tell the truth." As we drove away from the lake house, I could see James and his father in my rearview mirror, gesturing wildly on the front steps. For the first time since the divorce, I felt something I hadn't expected, not just anger, but power. The fallout was immediate and fierce. By the time we reached home, my phone was exploding with texts and calls. James threatening legal action, Eleanor demanding I correct this misunderstanding immediately. Family friends suddenly concerned about both sides of the story. I forwarded everything to my lawyer, Lisa Chen, who'd taken my case pro bono after meeting me at a single-parent support group. "This is exactly what we needed," she said when I called her that night after Tyler was asleep. "Document everything. We're filing for full custody tomorrow." What I didn't expect was Caroline's call the next morning. "Melissa, don't hang up," she said, her voice lacking its usual condescension. "I need to tell you something about James, something the family has been covering up." According to Caroline, James had been struggling with gambling debts, massive ones, that had drained his savings and maxed out his credit cards. The perfect Davis son had a secret addiction that had spiraled out of control. The condo was mortgaged to the hilt. The fancy vacations, funded by Richard to maintain appearances. James hadn't been making child support payments because he literally couldn't afford to. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because what happened to Tyler was wrong," she said quietly. "And because I'm tired of the lies. My brother needs help, not more enablers." What happened next changed everything. With Caroline's testimony and financial documents she provided, Lisa filed not just for full custody, but for supervised visitation only. When we arrived at the courthouse 3 weeks later, we found an unexpected ally, Brittany. "I'm not having my baby around someone who leaves a 6-year-old alone," she said, avoiding eye contact with the Davis family seated across the room. She'd broken off the engagement after discovering more about James's financial deceptions. "I found out he's been stealing from his patient's charitable foundation too. The FBI is investigating." The judge, not one of Richard's golf buddies this time, reviewed our evidence: Tyler's bus transfers, my documentation of missed visits, Caroline's financial disclosures, and Brittany's statement about the incident. The Davis family lawyer attempted to paint me as opportunistic, but the evidence was overwhelming. "The court grants full custody to Melissa Carter," the judge announced. "Mr. Davis will have supervised visitation rights only, contingent upon completion of parenting classes and financial counseling. Child support payments will be garnished directly from any income." She looked directly at Richard and Eleanor. "And I'm issuing a restraining order preventing the grandparents from any unsupervised contact with the minor." Eleanor gasped audibly. Richard's face turned a dangerous shade of red. Outside the courthouse, Tyler asked the question I'd been dreading. "Does this mean I won't see Dad anymore?" I knelt down to his level. "Your dad needs to fix some things in his life, buddy. When he does, you'll see him with a special person there to make sure everything's okay. But I promise you'll always be safe." 2 months later, we received an unexpected package, a letter from James with a check for the full back child support plus interest. "I'm in treatment," his letter read. "Gambling addiction and therapy for the narcissistic tendencies my parents instilled. I don't expect forgiveness, but I am sorry. Tyler deserves better, and I'm working to become someone who deserves to be in his life. The money allowed us to move to a better apartment with an actual balcony where Tyler could use his telescope. We started a college fund with the remainder. More importantly, Tyler began therapy with a wonderful child psychologist who helped him process the divorce and his feelings of abandonment. 6 months after the lake house incident, Caroline invited us to lunch. She distanced herself from her parents and was rebuilding her own life. They controlled us with money and approval, she explained while Tyler played nearby. I'm learning how to live without either. She'd brought a gift, a box of Davis family photos she'd rescued before Eleanor could destroy them. Tyler should know where he comes from, she said, the good parts too. Most surprisingly, a year after the custody hearing, James completed his treatment program and financial counseling. His first supervised visit was awkward but genuine. He brought no extravagant gifts, just his presence and attention. Tyler was cautious but hopeful. The room I promised you, James said, was never about a physical space. It was me trying to buy your love instead of earning it. I'm sorry, buddy. I watched my son absorb this, his emotional intelligence far beyond his years. That's okay, Dad, he said eventually. We can just play catch in the park instead. As for the Davis family fortune, it turned out much of it was smoke and mirrors. Richard's medical practice faced lawsuits over financial improprieties. The lake house was sold to cover legal fees. Eleanor retreated to a much smaller home in Michigan, her social standing irrevocably damaged. The unexpected twist came when I was promoted at work to a position that would require us to relocate to Seattle. I worried about uprooting Tyler, about the supervised visitations with James. But when I explained the situation to my son, his response surprised me. Will there be mountains? He asked. I want to use my telescope to see stars from a mountain. James, to his credit, supported the move. I can fly out for visits, he said during a supervised session, if that's okay with you both. I want to be in his life, however I can. 2 years after that hungry whisper that started it all, Tyler and I stood on our deck in Seattle, the Cascade Mountains visible in the distance, his telescope pointed at the night sky. He was taller now, more confident. The therapy had helped him understand none of what happened was his fault. Mom, he said, I still pressed to the viewfinder. I found Jupiter, come see. As I leaned down to look through the telescope, I realized something profound. We hadn't just survived the Davis family, we had discovered our own universe, one where truth and love mattered more than appearances and wealth. And that was the greatest triumph of all. Looking back now, 5 years later, I realized that my son's hungry whisper wasn't just about food. It was about being seen, being valued, being protected. Tyler is 11 now, thriving in school, especially in science. That telescope still sits on our deck, though it's been upgraded a few times. James visits every other month, and while our relationship will never be what it once was, he's become the father Tyler deserves. Sometimes the most painful moments in our lives become our greatest turning points. I went from being the outsider the Davis family tolerated to being the mother who refused to let her child be collateral damage in someone else's story. If you're facing your own impossible family situation, remember this: speaking your truth isn't just an act of courage, it's an act of love. The truth may cost you relationships, but silence costs you your dignity. If you connected with our story, please hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes we all need permission to stand up for ourselves and our children. And drop a comment below if you've ever had to make a difficult family decision to protect someone you love. Your story matters too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.